Well, Tony Abbott's preparations to take office have suffered a setback, with frontbencher Sophie Mirabella looking increasingly likely to lose her Victorian seat. An error by the Australian Electoral Commission had given the impression she'd hang on to her seat of Indi. But in Queensland, a former Howard government frontbencher has claimed victory, despite legal threats from Clive Palmer. Political correspondent Tom Eagleton has more from Canberra.
Tony Abbott's avoiding press conferences as he prepares for office.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for making yourselves available.
Restricting himself to picture opportunities with senior officials. Today it was the turn of the military brass.
Obviously, you are at the heart of ensuring that we maintain our national security.
The Prime Minister-elect will likely have one of his platoon missing in action when he comes to recruit for his new cabinet. Sophie Mirabella was expected to squeak back into Parliament on a thin margin in her seat of Indi until the Australian Electoral Commission discovered a box of uncounted votes.
After we do the recheck, we anticipate that most of those votes will end up going with Cathy McGowan finally.
There's been no official protest from the Liberal frontbencher so far.
No, we have not heard from the Liberal candidate for Indi as yet.
The AEC says it was an honest mistake.
They were mismarked actually on the outside of the box. It had an incorrect number. When that number's been transcribed onto another sheet, that's where the errors occurred.
One of Sophie Mirabella's colleagues says even if she wins, she'll be in for a demotion.
Being on a razor-thin margin, it would make it very difficult to commit all the time that's required to a cabinet position.
With a vacancy apparently opening up on Tony Abbott's front bench, CVs are being dusted off.
You know, there are a number of people he could pick from. I mean, for instance, he could pick me as a scientist in Parliament.
Mal Brough has ministerial experience and isn't denying he's spoken with Tony Abbott about his future.
I don't talk about private discussions with such people.
In the 2007 election, he suffered Sophie Mirabella's likely fate, losing his seat of Longman. Now he's claiming victory in the tight race in the Queensland seat of Fisher.
It's been a long journey. Wasn't sure we'd ever get to this day, and I know quite a few other people probably wish that we didn't get to this day.
On the Labor side too, there are those looking to recapture past glories.
I'll be nominating for the front bench. I've spoken to a range of my colleagues in the last couple of days since the election and indicated that I'll be a candidate for the front bench. I still believe that I have a role that I can play.
Bill Shorten will definitely run for the party's leadership. Anthony Albanese is believed to be still weighing his options. But a vote would be complicated by new rules introduced by Kevin Rudd, allowing the ALP's rank and file to have a say, meaning the caucus vote might not be confirmed for up to a month. Stephen Conroy says the rules are a farce.
A parliamentary Labor leader cannot sustain their leadership if they do not have the support of a majority of their colleagues, and these rules that have been put in place will make us a laughing stock, an absolute laughing stock.
Without a leader, Labor's already publicly splintering over the question of whether or not to oppose Tony Abbott's first order of business, repealing carbon pricing. Senior union officials branding two Labor MPs as Muppets after they suggested the new opposition wave through the coalition's repeal legislation. But the new government's banking on getting the repeal through Parliament quickly, confidently laying out a timetable to introduce its direct action policy.
On day 30 after the swearing in, we will seek submissions. Then from day 60 onwards, we'll enter into an additional period of consultation. Day 100, we'll have the white paper out, and then at day 150, we would have any legislative items made available and introduced.
How's that for direct action? Tom Eagleton, Lateline.
Retiring US Ambassador Jeffrey Bleish says democracies like Australia and the United States have remained resilient 12 years after the 9/11 terror strikes on the US. In an address to the National Press Club, Mr Bleish said the attacks, which killed nearly 3,000 people, had not achieved the terrorists' desired goals. He explained that fear of terrorism can destroy democracies.
They hope to make us do what terrified people do. To turn on each other, to fear each other, to think first of ourselves and forget about one another. Because that is the one thing that will ruin a democracy.
Mr Bleish's tenure in Australia, which ends today, saw 4 prime ministers in less than 4 years.